everyone! So, it is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And naturally, we're going to talk about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
And then I'm going to go watch 2 Star Wars movies.
Exactly. We'll deal with Star Wars after Harry Potter. I think that says something about our priorities. I'm not sure what. Anyway, last night we rewatched both Fantastic Beasts movies, and Amanda made a ridiculous amount of notes, and we are going to go through them. I made mental notes. It's all up here. It's all good. I got this.
Do you want to start off with just saying what you think about both movies?
Yeah, I think so. I think you should talk first, though, because then I can steal all your points.
Well, I know we have different opinions.
Yeah.
So
the first one I really, really, really love. It's incredibly hard for me as someone who was abused by their parents. You know, especially a lot of the Creed stuff. It's rough, you know? But I just think that Eddie Redmayne is the perfect Newt Scamander.
He's actually a wizard.
Right,
He's
like
100%
they just found a wizard. They didn't like cast somebody. They were just like, he just apparated onto set and they're like, oh, we're done.
No,
like,
I completely believe his career as an actor is just covered for being a wizard. That's all it is.
Right? Like,
no one can ever convince me otherwise.
Exactly. You know, he's fantastic. And like, he's fantastic in everything.
Fantastic.
He's fantastic in, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. He's fantastic in everything I've ever seen him in. Like, seriously, he nails it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, he's so Hufflepuff, and it's so awesome. You know, like, if him and Tom Holland got in, like, a room together, they would just peak Hufflepuff. Like,
Badgers would just materialize.
right? They could actually bring back Cedric Diggory. And then we come to the second one, and I'm kind of not in love with it nearly as much. Like, I think we got to the core storylines, but I think calling it a Fantastic Beasts movie is really not so accurate, because, like, the Beasts do forward the plot and they are important to it, and I feel a lot differently about this the second time than I did when I saw it the first time. But, like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same level of, like, whimsy that the first one did, and I get that things are getting more serious plot-wise and everything, but all of that stuff was supposed to be happening in the first one as well, and just, I don't know, tonally it just didn't feel as fun to me. I don't know.
I
disagree completely.
No.
Always.
I love them both. I really do. I had really high hopes at first, and then very, very, very low hopes after Cursed Child came out. I read Cursed Child, and I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna hate these. I'm terrified.
We don't talk about Cursed Child. It's not canon. I don't care if Joe Rowling says it is. Like, no, it's just so wildly different from every other thing in the everything that, like, it just can't possibly be canon.
No, but I thought it was going to be, I had to, like, lower my expectations, but then I ended up falling completely in love with it. I agree, it's a very triggering movie. I definitely don't feel like it's a kid's movie. I 100% feel like it's a movie for kids that grew up with Harry Potter and are now adults.
Yeah, like,
100%,
I can see,
which
like,
I'm fine with.
Teenagers definitely, but I don't think past middle
It's
school.
not a
like,
kid's movie, for
no.
sure. But it was, I mean, it works for some kids. I watched a lot of dark movies as a kid, but it's not like the primary audience.
Right, no, I wouldn't, like, think immediately bring children to it.
No, but I loved the first movie. I think Eddie Redmayne's great. I think it's fun. I like the choice of what they focus on. I'm obsessed with the 20s, so that definitely worked for me. And then New York and then Paris with the next movie definitely works for me. But,
that is the one thing I really think is pretty awesome about seeing the expanded wizarding world, seeing it other countries and stuff, and how they handle their affairs, and knowing that America is just as terrible in the wizarding world as it is in the actual world. Whoops. And, you know, stuff like that I think is really, like, I like the world building aspects of it for sure.
And then the second movie I loved too. I liked it a lot more than I think a lot of other people did. It was very dark, but I kind of think we needed that right now. I really think it does a good job of explaining how good people get suckered into bad, dangerous ways of thinking and how tyrants form. I think it's a very good show of how that's subtly done.
No, because Queenie's arc is done out of love, and, like, that's what drives her.
She's never a bad person.
No, exactly.
And neither is Credence. I loved it. It was definitely darker. I had some issues with the pacing the first time watching it, but the second time watching it I didn't. I feel like I sunk into it. I don't think the movies work unless you're, like, a hardcore Harry Potter fan.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that, frankly. I don't know if that's just selfish of me. I kind of don't care. I'm like, whatever.
Like, it really, really is for the fans of Harry Potter. Like, if you don't care very much about Harry Potter, you're probably not even going to go see this. So, like,
I know some people that are and are liking it, which surprises me, and I'm not saying they're not allowed to. I just don't think the movies are necessarily made for people that didn't grow up
Yeah,
obsessed
and I'm
with Harry
concerned
Potter.
that the things that they are going to like about it are the fact that it doesn't have stuff like major plot arcs running through the whole thing. And I'm like, but that's the direction we are going. Like, Joe can't turn that off. Like, you know, I'm concerned that they're going to fall away by the end of it because, like, the things they probably like about it are that it's not so monolithic and it's going to become that.
The only thing I'm not in love with it is I was very excited by the idea of seeing the Fantastic Beasts book written and researched and explored and having it kind of slowly build from exploring animals and the light side of that, as well as the prejudice wizards have against some magical creatures, and have that slowly build into the prejudice against wizards as well as muggles, and have that slowly build into darker and darker creatures. I think that would have been interesting, but Joe rarely gives us what we expect. So
Right,
I was like,
and-
oh, this will be great, and then it wasn't quite it, but I'm
And thematically, you're exactly on point. That's why she's making Newt Scamander kind of the champion of this, because he's so far removed from humanity and everything.
I just feel like
with
a
it.
lot of those lines about that are kind of thrown away, as opposed to I wish we had gotten like a movie about that, like a movie
Right,
about
and it's a
the
fine
defending
line.
animals.
It's a fine line because, like, one of the things that I really love about Joe's writing is that, like, she's speaking about larger themes through a smaller lens. It's very, like, a parable, you know? And, like, I really love that subtlety of it and people being like, oh, and not really understanding, like, why they feel about it the way they do, but under, like, sort of having it ingrained in their philosophy. It's sort of like what you talk about frequently, where you call, like, Harry Potter fandom basically a religion, because it really is a set of ideals that
Belief
if you...
system is usually what it used to be like less
Right.
offensive.
Right.
But yeah.
But no, exactly. Like, if someone's a fan of Harry Potter and really gets the story, I really don't think they're going to be that terrible of a person just as a rule.
No, you
You
kind
know?
of have a general idea where the baselines are morals. But I kind of worry that some of that was told and not shown, and especially in a movie that doesn't really work. But I'm trying to hold out hope for what's going to happen still. I'm just afraid it kind of became very much about what, like, I feel like it like started in like the 5th book of the Harry Potter series. And I
Yeah.
feel like we could have used 1 or 2 that were more like Sorcerer's Stone.
Right, and I kind of like being thrust back into that world, and that sort of ties in with the whole, like, it's really for the fans who kind of understand, like, about this era and everything in the Wizarding world, who have really read things like Fantastic Beasts, because it addresses the history of all this stuff and everything. I don't know. I don't know, because, like, the slow build-up would have been really hard as a, like, marketing tool. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like
I mean, we'd watch anything.
I feel
let's
like you
be
could have
real.
done that, but that's my only complaint about Fantastic Beasts is that. It's just like, oh, I wanted to see this, I wish we got to see a little more of that. But that's
Right,
it, that's
like,
my only
as
real
into world
complaint.
build, exactly.
Well,
that's-
that and then some awkward people of color issues, but we'll get into that.
yeah. Like, you know, as much as I enjoy world building, you love
No,
world
I'm
building. That is
so
your
into
whole
it.
thing. To the point where you forget plot sometimes in your writing.
No. Well, my biggest problem is like theme. I focus on theme, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
plot doesn't have to happen.
Exactly.
It's the John Green problem.
And I was gonna
John
say, you have the
Green's
John
very
Green
good at
problem.
it,
Yeah.
so I'm
Well,
like, that's not really a problem for you.
Well, that's you're too focused on theme and forget that plot has to happen.
No, I'm not insulting John Green, obviously.
No, of
It's
course
perfect.
not.
He does that perfectly. I love the way he does it, but I'm not John Green.
It's
so.
the struggle that he has making the work that he does.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. All right, so let's get into your notes.
Okay, well, one thing I noticed that I find really, really interesting, and I think it's super highlighted in Crimes of Grindelwald especially, is how many people do the same thing Grindelwald does, where they do awful things for the greater good. Like, there are multiple people doing that. Dumbledore, absolutely. He never, like, says it, but he doesn't deny it either. He absolutely manipulated Newton to go into New York to look for the Obscurious. Like, 100% did
Right,
it.
no, and that's why they're such interesting characters together, because Dumbledore and, I think, Grindelwald are really the opposite sides of the same coin. They both do the same kinds of things. The ends justify the means, you know, it's sort of Machiavellian in that way. But, like, it's just that Dumbledore happens to be going for good things.
And he doesn't learn from it. He's still doing it in the Harry Potter series.
Absolutely.
He does it literally until he dies.
Yep.
And Queenie does the same thing. Because Queenie, you know, enchants Jacob and takes him over because she thinks she's doing it for the right reason. Like, they
Right.
all do that. Like,
And
a lot
it's-
of them do that. Newt doesn't, but Newt's just like, I'm backing off. I'm not getting involved.
And it's a super common thing in humanity for us to do those kinds of things. Like, that is how a lot of people justify things. Like, single issue voters, for example, they vote for the thing that they care about and don't care about the rest. It's really not that different. It's the same kind of thing.
It's just, I find that really interesting that so many people do things for the greater good. It's just a matter of
What their definition
what
of good
counts,
is.
but they're all doing bad things. Like, Dumbledore does awful things for the good,
Yeah.
And Queenie does awful things, and Grindelwald obviously is doing awful things that he thinks are for the best, because what's happening to wizard kind is bad in the movies.
Right.
They are being repressed and hurt and hidden. Like, it is messed up what's
He's
happening
not
to them,
wrong.
but it's not the right way to handle it
Right.
at all.
Exactly, but like, it's that, yeah, exactly, the right thing for the wrong reasons, or the right reasons for the wrong method, you know,
It's very weird.
It's such a nuanced thing, and I really do love that we're playing with that theme, because it's very important, especially in like our political climate right now.
No, I agree. I think it's really important. Another big thing I think we have to talk about is I'm refusing to accept the fact outright that McGonagall is a plot hole and an inconsistency. I know Jo is awful at math. I know she says anything that involves numbers to just disregard and not view as a plot hole and just count as her, but I can't see her doing this, not when she has like McGonagall's story so fleshed out on Pottermore and everything. I can't see that being a mistake. I don't want to believe it's a mistake or that it's that big of an AU difference. So I'm kind of buying into the idea that she's using a time turner,
Oh, absolutely.
because that's what she's the one that got Hermione doing it, and I'm wondering, because it does mean something really interesting.
I'm sorry,
with
this
time
is still
turning.
in debate? Like, the
Oh,
fandom is
massively.
torn on this?
It's
or-
a huge fight as to whether or not
Okay,
it's a
well,
mistake or if it's a time turner.
We are right. You've come to the right place.
Well, the thing I think is interesting is some of the motivations for it, because I was looking at the years, because she's born in 35 and Crimes of Grindelwald take place in 27, or in 27. But her mother was born in 1917 and started going to Hogwarts in 1928. And I don't know how much you know about McGonagall's history, but her mother was a witch who fell madly in love with a muggle, and she knew that like she couldn't tell her, like her family was going to be against it. They eloped. He had no idea she was a wizard until that she was a witch until after she gave birth to McGonagall, and then she essentially went into massive postpartum depression over losing her whole connection to her family and her wizarding life. And so Minerva grew up watching her mother be incredibly repressed and depressed and miserable and disconnected from everybody and jealous when she got to go back to Hogwarts and be around the world. So part of me wonders if she went back to get to witness her mother not be repressed and be her actual self. But she, like, we only see her the year before her mother would have gone to Hogwarts.
Yeah, and my problem with
don't
that,
know.
my problem with that is that like there's this whole notion of like predestination in
Yeah.
Harry Potter's world of time travel, where like everything that happens still happens. It just is your awareness of the situation, basically.
And she's not like using a fake name or anything.
No.
So like eventually the mother would have like realized what was going on. Like it's not the mother's name. She wouldn't have recognized it as a child. But I don't know. I guess
But
she
she's
may
using
not
the last
realize it.
name. Like that would still be such an odd coincidence. Like.
What do you mean?
Like, if her mother's at Hogwarts and is being, taught by Professor McGonagall, she'd be like,
but
that's weird.
McGonagall is the husband's name though.
Hmm.
Like it's not her mother's name. It's not her mother's name.
That's very interesting.
But Minerva is her grandmother's name. Like, because Minerva was named, her mom named her after her grandmother. So it's really interesting, and I wonder if she went back to see like time right before her mother was there, or to set things up for her mother to make things easier and then go back or
But
something.
in any case, excluding Cursed Child, because you should, which by the way breaks the axiom of time travel as we've seen it in other, this would be the only example canonically of time travel past a few hours.
I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Like, we don't know because we don't know what was done with the time turns before that. I'm trying to think if there's anything on Pottermore I've read about that. I don't know for sure. But I do
Well,
wonder.
the point is we are going to find out.
I just wonder if she
I
did
just
something
don't-
to like set up for her mother to have a better chance in school or something.
It's a
or
good
she's wanted
theory.
to know something about the world. I'm really
But
curious
I
about
agree
it.
with you in principle, it is not anachronistic. This is not a mistake. She put her there for
I
a
really
reason.
hope it's not a mistake. If it's a mistake, I'm going to be devastated. 'Cause it's not only going to mess with the books, it's going to mess with everything on Pottermore too, because that's already established.
I do wonder how this would impact her actual age then. Like, by the time Harry and the crew roll around,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. So
Well, it's
I'm
pretty
very
different.
curious.
Like, she's literally -8 in Crimes of Grindelwald. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's very different. Like, she doesn't go to Hogwarts until much later. So it's a very weird thing. I don't know. It just messes with me. don't know.
I'm very curious. I'm totally on board with it not being anachronistic. I really do think this is intentional.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way, she's gonna have to explain her way out of it now. So even if it's a retcon,
Right?
like
There has to be something, unless they're just gonna like just not go back in time and never bring it up again.
right, like just no, she's just there. Don't worry about it. Like,
Right? Like that was just in that movie. We'll just ignore it. I'm gonna be really annoyed if that's what happens. I'm gonna be so frustrated. I hate things just
right, we
left
need
like that.
answers. But Jo does this. Like she does stuff like this and like does explain. She normally does offer explanations.
Yeah. The other big theory that I don't know, and I was trying to watch for signs of, and I see so many misdirections in both ways, is whether or not Jacob's a squib. That gets brought up a lot. And some of the things, like he didn't have the worst reaction to a Murtlap bite, but he was also more susceptible than a lot of wizards are.
Yeah, and Newt literally describes him as having Muggle physiology.
Yeah, and Queenie can hear the No-Maj accent, but I don't know, would a squib have a No-Maj accent?
No-Maj accent.
Yeah, she says that I have a hard time with your kind. When she first meets him, she says she has a hard time hearing the thoughts of people that aren't wizards, that they have a little bit of an accent.
I thought that was Newt because he's British. She's like, I struggle with your kind Brits.
I think she was talking to Jacob when she said that.
I think
that there
you're
was like
dead
a No-Maj
wrong.
accent. We can like rewatch the scene.
We're gonna have to rewatch it again. It's the only way.
I'm pretty sure she says it to Jacob, that she's a hard time understanding him. 'Cause I remember I made a note. I'm like, oh, that's another thing, but maybe a
No.
squib has a No-Maj accent.
Nope. Sorry, you're just wrong.
We can look it up real quick if you want.
Go for it.
Come on, Mrs. Esposito.
Oh yeah, no, you're right, it's Brits. You're right, I just read it. Okay, well, to be clear, I'm not fighting with you. I don't do this competitively.
Slytherin. I don't buy it. I told you so.
No, you're right. It's definitely the Brits thing, which that's interesting. Give me that look.
That's why she struggled with. That's basically how I excuse her not knowing that she was in Grindelwald's like safe house.
Yeah, well, plus she was
Because
freaked out
like she
then.
can't read through accents at all.
Okay, well, that part's gone then, so that could lead to him still being a squib. And,
Yeah, no, I think it's very possible that he's a squib, but I'm very confused, like, why he would not know that. Like, I wonder how squibs are handled in America versus, like...
Well, I mean, I could see it being something where she knew he wasn't going to fit into the magical world and didn't want him to be aware of it. I could see that easily because there's so much disconnect between the magical world and the Muggle world, or the No-Maj world. I wonder if squibs are treated more just like complete outcast or something.
That could very likely be
And
the
he
case.
only mentions his grandmother, so I could even
and
see
we
like
later-
magical parents like dumping the kid with the grandmother, like we don't want to deal with you. Like I really wonder how squibs are handled.
And they do linger on the photo of the grandmother for long enough that I'm like, they wanted us to see this
And
for
to
some
like
reason.
notice this person.
And like, she bears a resemblance to the historian in Harry Potter.
Yeah, but the little back shot.
Yes, thank you. So I'm like, I kind of wonder if there's like a connection there.
I know a lot of people think that he's descended from Helga Hufflepuff because of the baking and the cooking and all of that, and she's the one that did all the recipes for all the Hogwarts recipes are pretty much all from her.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm very interested in that, but I wonder if like squibs are treated as complete pariahs, and maybe that's why he was raised by his grandmother or something. Like that could be really interesting. One thing that I wonder though is I don't know, like, I'm really curious about the venom at the end of the movie and how it affects wizards versus No-Mages, because obviously all the No-Mages had all their negative memories wiped based on what happened. And Queenie protects herself from the rain when she goes out to kiss Jacob. But I don't think the No-Maj cleanup crew was protecting themselves. I think they were getting wet. And we don't see any scenes of like wizards at their homes having to like worry about their showers or the water they're drinking. So I don't know if the venom only affects people that are non-magical. And in that case, I don't know how that would affect a squib. And like Newt mentioned, the physiology being different, but he also was assuming.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really curious. I feel like we have like possible Mr. X in multiple ways.
I agree. It really could be any of the above without feeling like a retcon.
I don't even know if I want him to be a squib though. I kind of like him just being a No-Maj and being an audience replacement. I
He's
kind of like that.
Muggle. We go by those words.
I don't know. I'm really torn. Do you think the Phoenix is real, or do you think Grindelwald was creating something for Credence to see?
I think it's real.
He's such a manipulator.
Like, I could see him having stolen Albus's Phoenix. Like,
Yeah.
that could also be the thing, and just having it appear for Credence to, like, enhance this theory. Like, it could all be a lie.
I also wonder if Credence is just super drawn to birds. There's all kinds of weird bird things going on with Credence, because he's, like, scaring off birds in the first movie, and in the second movie he's caring for birds, and he's the raven in the poem, and just, like...
And Jacob...
everything. I'm just like, there's so many bird things with him.
And Jacob has a similar thing with the whole, like, oh yeah, my grandfather, raised pigeons or whatever.
Yeah, true.
So, like, there's a lot of bird imagery in this, and I kind of wonder what's going on with that. There definitely seems to be a point to it.
Yeah. Okay, one super big theory that I'm definitely buying into, and I wonder if it would even explain, I'm curious, I don't know if it would explain the Phoenix showing up, but is the idea that Credence isn't technically a Dumbledore, but that the Obscurious that leaves Ariana switched host, and that's the Obscurious that's in Credence. That's a really common
I've heard this
theory.
theory, because we listen to the same sources, but, like, I just don't buy that, because I feel like the nature of an Obscurial is that it is attached to its host. Like, it's born out of that situation.
That's true, but they also compare it to a parasite, and when Grindelwald is like, oh, it's useless without a host, it sounds like you possibly could transfer it to a different host, and that there would be 7 years between Ariana dying and Credence being born, which is about the length of time that someone could survive holding one, too, so it could have gone from Ariana to someone else to Credence. And I do wonder that. It would also make sense why Grindelwald was looking particularly for young girls, because maybe he thought the host would be similar each time.
He wasn't really sure, but he assumed it was the sister.
And he just kept
he narrowed it down to the people in there, and she was the right age.
And
That's
he just
basically
kept looking for, like, young women. I don't know. I feel like he was looking for someone to look like Ariana, or to be a similar host.
Yeah, I've heard this theory. I kind of don't like this theory, because I feel like it kind of neglects his story, like, I don't know.
I think that's thematic and fits with him, though. He would just be being used again.
Well, then we have to come back to the issue of, is he actually magical? I mean, like, we know his mother was a witch of some kind, because of the reaction of the second Salem leader, their crazy belt lady. Like, we know that he is of a magical bloodline, probably, at least, even if he is a squib. Which, like, Grindelwald could be right. He could be a squib.
I think, definitely the impression I was getting is that an Obscurious has to would be looking for another repressed wizard, is what I was saying.
And, like, we do see him use a wand successfully,
and
so I would
he's very
assume...
powerful.
Is he, though? Because it could just all be him channeling the Obscurial, like, you know what I mean?
But the Obscurial should kill you. He shouldn't be able to live as long as he did.
Yeah, the whole thing is so out of the norm that it's kind of hard to make a prediction. Like, whatever he is, it is going to be something we have not seen before. That is the whole point.
But that's where people think that Grindelwald could get away with not actually lying. He could be saying, you're Dumbledore's brother, because he's really talking to the Obscurious, and the Obscurious is Ariana. So it's like, you're technically still Dumbledore's sibling, you're technically part of this blood. This is why the Phoenix is drawn to you, is because you are a Dumbledore, like, part of you is a Dumbledore. It's almost the way the Horcrux, like the way Voldemort attached to Harry. I kind of think the Obscurious may have attached to Credence this way, and Credence would just be being used again.
Interesting. That would make it pretty much the inverse of a Horcrux then? Because the Horcrux would be an object that could be destroyed, that would be a part of your soul. This would be literally just your soul that would be indestructible.
Yeah, and I could see it turning into something where, because I think Credence is a Hufflepuff. All he wants is love and acceptance, and he doesn't mind working. Like, that's all he wants, is to just be loved and cared for. And he's so vulnerable to that. Like, he believes Newt, he believes Tina, he believes Grindelwald, he believes anyone who tells him they love him. And I feel like if he realizes that even his magical powers were using him, that he was being used by this thing, I could easily see him at the end being similar to Harry. I could see him sacrificing himself as the only way to get rid of the Obscurious.
And that's the other thing. Like, at what what does it take to actually destroy an Obscurious?
See, and he's so powerful, I wonder if he could do it to himself. That's what I wonder, if it could be
That's
like
sort of the impression I've always gotten with the Obscurious, like, idea, is that, like, it would self-destruct.
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of the only thing that could actually do anything to it. That would be the thing that affects it, and that's why it kills the host, because it's self-destructing.
It's just too much.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I don't know, I think that makes a lot of sense, and the whole sacrifice thing makes sense with it. But, like, that's why I kind of take issue with the idea that it could jump hosts, because, like, if it self-destructs, it wouldn't have anywhere to go. So we have to find out more about, like, the circumstances under which it was removed, because they obviously can be removed, as Newt contained it.
And we still don't know exactly how Ariana died. We know it was a duel, we know that she was probably an Obscurious, we don't know exactly what happened, so we don't really know what happened to the Obscurious then, because we don't know what they were trying to do. I mean, for all we know, Grindelwald may have been trying to remove the Obscurious from her at the time to use it as a weapon.
He may have succeeded and just happened to kill her, and then lost control of it, unlike Newt, who learned from that from Dumbledore. Like, that's kind of my theory.
Been like, this is going into my biggest theory, actually. I have wondered, because my biggest theory with this, what I think is coming, well, let me just cycle back to tie this part up. I kind of hope it is something like this, because I do think Grindelwald is lying, because he is such a manipulator, and they killed Irma. They killed literally the only other person that could possibly know what Credence's actual history is. So there's something they're hiding, that otherwise they wouldn't have killed Irma. That would have been extra proof. So they definitely are hiding something. But if it's just outright a blanket black and white lie, that's going to feel too cheap and easy when that was like the big reveal at the end of the second movie.
Yeah, it's sort of like retconning I am your father. You know, like...
But if it's a half-truth, I think I'm okay with that. Because Grindelwald does that. He builds off of things that are just true enough to have a base, and then he just twists it to get whatever he wants. So I kind of hope it's something, if it's not that exactly, I hope it's that. Because I don't really want it to be true. I don't want him to just be Dumbledore's brother somehow, like, oh, your dad got around and did something while he was in Azkaban.
They've never spoken of again since then, especially when talking about Ariana and everything.
Yeah, I hope it's not that, but I also don't want it to be just a lie. I feel like that's too easy.
It's his love child with McGonagall.
God.
I've heard that theory. It's a thing.
I've heard lots of theories. I've heard lots of very bizarre theories that make
and I'm
no
like,
sense.
I don't know if you've heard about Dumbledore.
Oh, maybe he's bi.
I mean, it would be nice to have some damn representation, wouldn't it?
But this ties into my biggest theory, what I do think is likely coming, or what I kind of hope is coming, and I know it's messed up, but I kind of hope it's coming. I don't think Grindelwald ever loved Dumbledore. I don't at all. I think Dumbledore
we disagree.
Well, hear me out. I think Dumbledore loved Grindelwald 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think Grindelwald did. I think he may have used Dumbledore possibly to close to Ariana if he thought Ariana was an Obscurus and thought he could take it out of the host and use it as a weapon. Because he says that to Newt, he's like, oh, it's useless without the host. And that's the first time he found that out. He clearly still thought you could use an Obscurus as a weapon without a host. So I could see him trying to pull that from Ariana. But, and let me wrote this down. What I think is going on with them, and why I think Dumbledore has so much guilt and is so consumed, has never gotten over it. Because a lot of people are like, think that it's a plot hole that Grindelwald and Dumbledore could not have fought whenever Ariana died because they had the Blood Pact. But I think they made the Blood Pact after Ariana died.
No, of course.
I think what happened is I think that Grindelwald knew that Dumbledore was beginning to disagree with him, because that's what their fight was about, and that he was losing him, and that he was the only person who could possibly be a threat to him. So I think I don't think he thought that he could take him on. He didn't know for sure. He's very passive. He doesn't like getting his hands dirty. So I think what happened is I think after Ariana died, I think Grindelwald manipulated Albus and basically was like, see what happens when you stand up to me. You can't do this. And I think he pulled the whole guilt thing. I think he was like, I'm all you have now. I'm the only person that loves you now. Like, I love you even after watching you murder your sister. Even your own brother doesn't love you now. What do you have? You have nothing. We can never let this happen again. We can never fight again. You can never leave me again. I think he just manipulated him into thinking that he is the only one that could possibly love Dumbledore and that he could never stand up to him because look what it cost. And I think that's when they made the Blood Pact. And I think that's why Dumbledore is so messed up. I agree with you now,
but the question still remains whether they had, like, prior intimacy, like, actual relationship, and I think they did actually at one point love each other. I think it was legit, and then Grindelwald's ambition took over in place of that.
I bet they had a relationship, but he never actually loved him. I think he
I
saw
don't
a
buy
partner.
that. I think, well, that's just it. I think he saw it as all coming together, and like then when Dumbledore betrayed him, as he would perceive it, that's when he chose. He decided he had to fight him. Like, I think that's the moment he stopped loving him.
I just think we have so many hints that Grindelwald doesn't love or can't love. Because, like, the way he, like, murders the animal in the carriage when he's escaping, too. Like, he loved that animal, but the minute he's done with it, you're dead. I don't think he really
Well,
cares
that's sort of
about
my
or
point.
loves
Like, he's
anything.
done with Dumbledore, and then he's done with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
but I don't think you do that if you love somebody. I don't think he actually loves them. I think he loved having a tool.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So we're basically disagreeing over the version of love that we're talking
Yeah,
about?
I don't think it was actual
Like-
love. I think it was a you're useful, and I
Yeah.
can manipulate you by just telling you I love you. I don't think he actually loved
So it's
him.
not unconditional love, which is what we're talking about.
I don't even know if it was ever anything but a lie. Like an abusive
See, that's what I'm saying.
relationship.
I would rather have the nuance of, you know, like, Dumbledore's love was unconditional and Grindelwald's was conditional. And that's a very different kind of love, and having the nuance of those two opposing points.
I could see that too. I think I'm leaning towards it being more of a, with all the thematic stuff she does, I'm leaning towards it being more of an example of an abusive, manipulative relationship where the person doesn't
Right.
love you,
And
they
like-
love having a supply.
We've talked about this before with Voldemort and his whole inability to love thing being kind of not really great for people who have been through abusive relationships and, you know, the product of abusive relationships.
Mhm.
And like, I don't know how I feel about that concept.
Right?
Because it doesn't offer Voldemort a chance for redemption by definition, because it's not really his fault that he's incapable of love, you know? Like, I don't know how I feel about this.
See, I don't know if Grindelwald could actually love him if they do the blood pact after Ariana died, though, because I think he would have to manipulate Dumbledore into that. And I think that makes sense because I think that explains what's going on with Amir Erised, because I was so confused the first time watching it. I'm like, why is he seeing a memory and a bad memory? And why isn't he seeing Grindelwald as a good person loving him or something? But I think Dumbledore is so messed up from it and so hanging on to the guilt that the only kind of love he can imagine getting is from a monster, is from a bad person. I think he still looks at that moment as, because he giggles. Like when he sees it pop up, he laughs. And I don't understand laughing at the moment where you make a blood pact where you can't kill Hitler, basically. And I think it's because he's like, yes, this is the moment I was actually loved. This is the person who actually sees me and loves me. And I think he still sees him as he is because he can't even imagine being loved by somebody healthy or being in a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I
That's
can see
the
that.
only way I could see that making sense, because otherwise it's just like, oh, well, here's Grindelwald as the evil person he is now, and here's a horrible memory from your past. Like, I don't know. It doesn't work otherwise, I feel like.
We need to talk about Colin Farrell versus Johnny Depp.
I'm like, I loved Johnny Depp for a very long time, but I'm a huge Colin Farrell fan, and I feel like he is very underused anyway, so.
Yeah, I really loved Colin Farrell way more as Grindelwald than I loved Johnny Depp. I just feel like Johnny is just not the ideal choice for this character. I felt that way when they cast him. I still feel that way having watched it.
He's kind of cartoonish.
Yeah, and like, Colin gets the nuance of it and everything. And that was the thing we were talking about last night. This is one of my mental notes. Is like, I don't understand at what point, who was Graves prior to that. And like, clearly there was some history there that they are like trying to cover up, because the informant that they go see, the mobster,
Mhm.
you know, that guy's like, that's a lot of stuff you don't want to ask, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of wonder at what point he was involved in there. And like, Grindelwald wasn't in America very long.
Right?
So like, did he just assume this person's identity? Because we definitely see him able to do that beyond normal means.
No.
To the point where I kind of wonder if he's a help me.
The Metamorphosis?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember I feel like I'm getting the name wrong, so I have the wrong thing in my head now.
well, whatever Tonks is. Like, that, where they can just transform themselves, like, can transfigure themselves consistently. Like, I kind of wonder if that's what's going on, but that wouldn't explain how he, like, gets the other person untransfigured. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness with that whole sequence, but either way, we've definitely seen that Grindelwald can assume other identities for long periods of time without Polyjuice Potion.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't really know at what point he became Graves.
No,
you know?
I'm super curious about that too.
And like, if there was a sudden uptick in Graves' power level, you know, like, I feel like people would notice.
Well, I think he was like downplaying his magical abilities. Like you
For
see
sure.
the moment when he like switches and starts fighting as Grindelwald as Graves, which is really interesting. And the other thing too that gets me is like,
He's not using the Elder Wand in the
Yeah.
entire first movie.
and like Johnny is beautiful, but he just, the way he looks in this movie and the way he's playing, he comes off as so much older and more decrepit than Dumbledore. And I know
Yeah.
that they're trying to show that like, oh, you're bad and this wears you out and performing black magic does things to you. But like, it's just very
But
hard to
Lucius-
buy him as a love story.
Okay, but
when-
here's the thing. Lucius Malfoy is gorgeous. Like, we need to
No,
take a moment.
I just have a very, very hard time picturing Johnny Depp's Grindelwald and Jude
Jude
Law's
Law.
Albus
Yeah,
Dumbledore
exactly.
in love. But like, I feel like Colin Farrell and Jude Law,
Yeah,
you get
no,
that vibe.
And haven't they been in a bunch of stuff together? Like, am I imagining
I
that?
don't know.
Well, either way, they need to be, because I ship them. Like, character them, not like the actors. But like, yeah, no, like, I just don't find it very plausible. I never thought that Johnny Depp was a good fit for this role, and I still don't.
No, and Johnny's a fantastic actor. He was my favorite actor for
It's
years.
just not this role.
And he does the manipulation, the gentle manipulation well. It all seems a little too on the nose and cartoonish, which is annoying because I feel like Johnny was really good at subtle acting before.
Right, and then we're back to this issue of like, who is the target audience of this, and it's clearly, again, not children.
Yeah.
You know? So it makes me wonder why in a very adult movie with very heavy themes, we have this cartoonish villain.
No, because like Colin does a really good job of playing like a very energetic political leader. I feel like he could be. He could be very like energetic and seem positive and seem proactive and be very charming and then just turn like that. He's terrifying the minute he wants to be.
Yeah,
but
like
it's
when
such
he-
a believable terrifying
The flip when he
thing.
smacks Credence is another
It's
example
so
of that.
scary. He's
Yeah.
so terrifying.
It's perfect. Like, I really thought his performance as Grindelwald undercover was perfect.
No, literally whenever like Grindelwald was being revealed, that was my primary thought, was just, no, Colin, come back. I was so upset.
Well, what if it's not actually Grindelwald and it is actually Colin Farrell? And
I know, I
like,
kept trying to think.
Graves is Grindelwald.
I was like, maybe Colin will be back some other way. And I'm
Right?
like, no.
Well, that's sort of where I'm like trying to wonder if we're ever going to get an actual resolution
actually
to that.
get Graves?
Like, where is Graves? Who is this character? Was it invented by Grindelwald? Did he like
Yeah.
write himself into other people's memories? Did he just insert himself like
Yes, he
that episode
probably
of Star Trek:
could.
The Next Generation?
He probably could. He's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's very, very powerful. Like he
No.
could make that happen.
No, that's my biggest theory is that, because I keep hearing people complain about that they couldn't have fought if they made a blood pact in the first place, and I really think it was after Ariana died.
I've also heard that the blood pact might be the cause of Ariana's death and like
Yeah.
have been persistent through the whole thing. But I like your version a lot better because that's also how I feel about it. It's the one that makes the most
It
sense.
just ties into everything else, I think. Plus, it's sadder, and let's be real, Joe always goes with sadder.
Yeah.
So it's like whichever
It's like,
one's most likely
which choice
to
can I make?
destroy you.
The good one or the sad one?
Right? Just one thing I put down because I was so mad is I have no idea why the president didn't watch Jacob be obliviated. When she's like, "Oh, I'll give you a moment to say goodbye," she should have just like not left them alone with this nomad and know they have a history of not obliviating.
Right? Like
Part of me is like, did you want to let him get away? But also, she does not seem like that type.
Well, she's also incredibly trusting to a fault. Like that is definitely her flaw in
Oh.
in these movies.
The other thing I wrote down, because you and I both mentioned it, is I need to know what the line "Will we die just a little" that
Yeah.
Grindelwald says to Newt means.
Yeah.
And that's not brought up at all in the second movie. I meant to look it up to see if it's a quote from something that I just don't know, a poem or something I don't know. But I'm like, that has to mean something, and it doesn't get brought up in Crimes at all.
No.
And I'm like, what is that line?
Yeah, it's just a
so
throw.
random.
It's a throwaway line, and there's a couple of throwaway items. Like when they're, I mentioned this while we were watching it. When they're going to visit Credence's mother, which it doesn't turn out to be, like there's a Celtic knot on the door, and like I feel like that is way too specific of a symbol for it not to mean
Yeah.
something. Like I kind of wonder if it's just a family crest or something. Like I don't know what that is, but it is like in the foreground, in your face. Not like held on to for a long time, but it's clearly meant to be seen. It's not just decoration, because otherwise that room was very sparse.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of anything else, so like it has to mean something. It has to be there for a reason, but I do not know what it is.
I know, I'm really curious.
And this is why, like, I find that there's a huge advantage in reading the screenplay of movies like this, and like the Fantastic Geeks crew also feels the same way about this, because the things that are mentioned in the screenplay are by definition almost always necessary for the actual exposition.
No, and I'm very upset because it's very out of character for me, but I just, like, I haven't been able to buy them yet. I haven't read any of the screenplays.
I don't even know why I let you on my channel.
I'm just, it really upsets me that I haven't read the screenplays when they're out. And they
Right? Like, they're totally obtainable. Like, didn't we buy this? We bought this for someone in our friend group.
Yeah, no, we bought it for friends, and I had all the wishlist, and I'm like, also me!
Well, if I hadn't just insulted the entirety of, like, the Winter Soldier subplot, like, maybe they'd be on this channel. Maybe they would help.
Yeah, I'm still not thinking about you saying you don't care about Bucky. So.
Let's Google that phrase real quick. Okay, so according to the interwebs, which have done a significantly greater deal of research on this than we have, so I like this one the most. I'm just going to pick it out of the article that I'm reading. It could refer to a Horcrux.
How so?
Because you're dying just a little by splitting your soul and all that. Like,
Maybe.
maybe.
It just seems weird to say it to Newt, too. Why say it to Newt specifically?
Because he knows something. He clearly, like, there is a relationship that pre-exists between Newt and Grindelwald. Like, they know each other.
It feels like there's something.
There is definitely a history there. It's like why he asks him, why does Dumbledore love you so much?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if he almost, like, that's where
He's
I kind
jealous.
of... Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of wonder if there is actually a romance involved, because I wonder if he's jealous of Newt. Like, if he thinks he's his new,
I don't know, because abusers are also, like, notoriously jealous and possessive.
It could be that, too.
It's so hard to tell, you know?
Yeah. I don't know.
My next note you're definitely going to like, because it's more of America Sucks.
Oh, good.
But I was thinking about, like, why they didn't execute Grindelwald right away. The way they were Tina.
Yeah, like, they execute Tina, and first of all, we need to talk about American justice.
No, it's completely messed up.
Like, hold on. One person in a dark room alone decides to kill people, and everybody just goes along with it.
No, and
like, what kind of power does this guy have?
They basically have you commit suicide by sucking you in with some beautiful memories that you want to get back to, and then making you relive, like, horrible, awful failures so you don't fight dying at the end. Like, that's terrible. That's the most messed up thing.
It's the most messed up way of dying ever, and this is coming from an American.
But what I was thinking about, I wonder if it's something similar to, like, the way we have Geneva Conventions and things like that. I wonder if it's because he's an international criminal and America wasn't allowed to sentence him, and I think America is probably more execution prone than Europe, because in Hogwarts, in like Harry Potter and like the UK, they send you to Azkaban, and the Dementor's Kiss is messed up when they do that, but usually as a last resort when Azkaban doesn't work. It's like, oh, you broke out of Azkaban, here's what you get. And it feels like, and obviously in the US, they're like, oh, you accidentally helped somebody who had somebody accidentally killed, you're gonna die now.
Right.
Like, I wonder if it's just like that's the way America
definitely...
it's criminals, but it's not the way they can handle international criminals.
Right, no, I agree. It definitely felt like an extradition thing, especially the way they were handling Grindelwald and all that. Like...
And they were very mad to lose Grindelwald. They're like, we only give him 6 months, basically. Like, we're not done with him yet.
They already cut out his tongue.
Yeah, right? Like, let us keep torturing him.
Right? I'm like, what is wrong with America?
Right? A lot of the other things I did were just, like, little things I noticed. Like, I know this is a common complaint, but the close-ups of Newt and Lita at the beginning, like when they first see each other again in Crimes of Grindelwald, are so awkward. I hate those shots.
Oh, right.
Where it's like
soft
you don't
focus
see, and you don't even see the top of their heads.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's like my Instagram. It's weird.
I hate it so much. I don't understand what they were doing. Like, it threw me completely out of the movie the first time watching it. I'm just like...
I think it's
so oppressively close.
Right, and it's so forced. Like, we're so supposed to believe that they still love each other, and I'm like, no, they do not. Like, there is no... Like, there's chemistry, but I don't think that... Like, no. It just I find it totally impossible.
There's a lot of center framing in this movie anyway, which I'm not in love with as it is, unless you're doing, like, a full, like, really, really stylized look, but this movie wasn't super stylized in anything but that in that sense, so it was very weird to me.
Right, it's very jarring going from a movie that's shot one way to another.
And it's all like David Yates, so I'm like, I don't know what happened. It was very weird. It was very on the nose.
Let his cousin film for a day, it's fine.
It's very bizarre, but which that leads me into the other thing, what you're just saying there is like, I need to know who Lita was saying I love you to. like we have no freaking idea. And I definitely feel like Theseus loves her more because he was going crazy as she was dying. He was losing his mind and Newt was holding him back, but maybe Newt had already like mourned losing Lita by losing her romantically.
And I think this ties in with our large theme thing here of like, you know, doing things for love and everything. Like, we don't know what her motivation is. We don't know, well, we probably won't now. Like, I kind of wonder if the next movie is going to be a prequel.
I feel like we're going to get at least a lot of flashbacks or something.
Something. Like, it's going to be the flashback episode. But, like, you know, and I also kind of wonder if this is similar to the theory that people have where people are stuck in the Soul Stone when Thanos does the snap, that, like, maybe they're in, the fire consumes them and takes them to some other place. Like, maybe it's just a method of transport? I don't think so, given that, like, we see their flesh peeled off their bones.
And he killed her very specifically,
right?
too.
Like, it was targeted.
He took care of her.
Yeah.
So, I don't...
Plus, we also, and this was something that was very interesting to me rewatching the first movie, the first scene of that movie, we see the blue flames killing people.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely a thing that has always been a thing.
Yeah.
It's like his thing.
No, but I need to know who she was talking to. I do feel like Theseus definitely truly loved her. And I also need to know how you switch brothers. Like, that's such a weird move.
It's such a soap opera thing.
That's such a weird romantic move.
Like, I mean, I grew up watching soap operas, and that is just like the most soap opera thing to ever happen.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, that does not happen in real life.
No.
I feel like, anyway.
And she didn't seem so head over heels over Theseus that it's like, oh, well, I couldn't resist this. Like, right. I really did love you. Well, she seemed very like, whatever.
And it's not like a Twilight situation where like Jacob was attracted to Bella but didn't really understand that it was actually her child and that was like the part of her that he was seeing in her. And like, I'm like, no, first of all, that I have problems with that whole thing and we can discuss that in another video, but like, this is not that. This is not like, they're very different personalities.
It felt like Newt and Lita still loved each other, and Theseus definitely loved Lita, but did not feel like Lita loved Theseus. But then you don't know who she's talking to at the end.
Right, and
like,
she's, like, her whole thing is being aloof and callous and everything to deal with the fact that she's, like, dealing with all this other stuff that's, like, really hard for her.
But it's hard to imagine she'd settle for that with Newt's brother.
Yeah, the whole situation
seems like torturing yourself
is very strange. And, like, we never really get resolution on Tina with the aura that she was apparently seeing, because like that was definitely a thing, you know? So I'm like, what happened there?
Clearly no one cared. Jacob's like, the minute we're all back together, she's gonna forget about that guy.
I mean, yeah, and that's pretty much what happens as far as we can tell, but like, I almost wonder if it was like a rebound guy, you know?
Oh, definitely,
like, 100%.
Like, she found out he was engaged, and then
and she was like, alright, I'll go be with someone else.
She's like, totally that type. She's definitely a rebound type.
She's very headstrong with that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Then I made more notes just about like how passive Grindelwald is. Like, he doesn't like killing, he doesn't like being the one to do that most of the time. Like, he does it, I mean, as we saw with Lita, but he's just like, I'll let other people do things. All the way down to the whole, like, we don't say such things out loud, we don't want the freedom to be ourselves. He won't even, like, everything he does is passive and manipulation and letting other people do it and looking good. It's so creepy.
And unlike Voldemort, who is the heir of Slytherin, I think Voldemort took notes, as we know, from Grindelwald's whole thing. And I think he adopted that philosophy, and that's not his natural state. Because when it comes down to it, he wants to be the one to fight Harry and no one else.
Yeah.
Like, he is not the same as Grindelwald.
No, he's peak Slytherin.
Right.
Like, he's very Slytherin.
Ties in with my next question. Do you think that Grindelwald was Slytherin?
Well...
Not like was actually Slytherin, but like was sorted into Slytherin.
If he had gone to Hogwarts, I could see him being that, but he definitely seems to think he's doing things the right reason. He almost seems like a very, like, messed up Gryffindor.
Yeah, no, and, like, I kind of wonder how that ties in with him and Dumbledore, because, like, if they are very much the same kind of personality, but taken in very vastly different directions, like, that would fit.
Right? No, it's really interesting. What? Oh, I find it interesting that Credence had to come to Grindelwald freely, and I wondered why, but I think it's so he doesn't feel trapped.
Yeah, it's part of the manipulation.
So the Obscurious doesn't turn on him, because he knows he can't control that Obscurious, and he has to. Which again, like, he has to fake love. He's faking a relationship again, which is still goes back to me wondering if that's what he did with Dumbledore. Because he's like, I want this weapon, and I can only get it if I convince you that I love you. And like, Credence doesn't want the romantic love from him.
I kind of wonder if we're going to get a tie-in back to the fact that one of Grindelwald's people under Grindelwald's orders was the one who killed the, not mom, but the... Yeah. And I'm like, that's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna break Credence. Like, it's going to break him, and that's why I think Credence is going to end up being good at the end. I think he is going to do something to sacrifice himself, and he's just going to be this tragic character, and I'm going to be sad forever, and Ezra's going to play him too well because Ezra's perfect, and I'm already going to cry just thinking about it. It's going to be hard.
What else have we got before we wrap up this, again, hour-long video?
I know, and we can skip my, like, just fangirling over Ezra Miller for 45 minutes.
Yeah, we'll cut out that. That'll be the thing that helps.
Well, it's a large chunk. I need to know if Newt, like, when the engagement announcement came out in relation to his book being published, because why did he not bring his book in person to Tina? I'm upset about that, and the only thing I can think is she stopped responding to his letters before his book was published, and I could see Newt being awkward enough to be like, oh, she doesn't want me to bring the book now.
No, he was banned from international travel. That is what happened.
I guess. But I feel like he would find a way. I mean, he broke that to get to her in Paris.
Yeah, on Dumbledore's order. She didn't know Dumbledore.
He didn't care about Dumbledore's orders. He wasn't going to do it. He was debating doing it. Then he found out Tina was in Paris and he went. Like, I think he would have broken it.
No, and Dumbledore knew
anyway.
that. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Of course he does, because he's a manipulative asshole.
Right? He's really not that different from Grindelwald.
No! Ugh. But, like, I feel like he would have found a way to get the book to her in person or something. He would have found something. He would have had her come there. He would have been like, can you come here? I can't come to you. Like, he would have done something, because she could definitely travel internationally. Oh,
and that's where we come back to the, like, announcement, because he probably did do that, and then she was like, you're engaged, I'm not going there, this is pointless.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. I just need to know, like, when they came out in relation to each other.
Yeah.
Because if that announcement came out before his book was published, I'd be like, oh, she stopped responding, and you're such a cream puff that you're just like, no, I'm just going to go be a Hufflepuff and be sad and mourn you.
Pigmentoff, actually.
Think about, salamander eyes, and be sad forever.
She clearly did read the book, too.
Right? Yeah, she definitely did. That's the other thing is POC definitely get the shaft in these movies.
Oh, yeah. Like, people of color get this problem in all of the Harry Potter series.
I was already awkward, like, the first time watching. I felt like it was kind of uncomfortable when the goblin is singing and super hypersexualized in the jazz club, because it just felt like when they would hypersexualize black singers and other them as animals and not people and not fully human. And I don't think that was intended unless they were making a statement, but then I think they needed to say they were making a statement that these two things relate. Look how they did this to goblins. They treat goblins badly. Guess what? We treated black people badly. But that wasn't said. So I'm just like,
And that's something I find tonally is a little off with these movies for me, is that, like, they can't decide whether they're doing it as an accurate historical piece or if they're doing it as, like, this is the parts of this that were messed up.
Because we also have a black female magical president.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very confusing. And then obviously all the issues with Nagini, which if I start talking about that, that's going to be a whole nother video.
God.
Like, I think the actress is great. I think she's beautiful. But, like, it's very uncomfortable that it's, like, interchangeable which Asian culture had this myth and who was cast. That feels awkward, and the whole thing of a woman of color being owned by a white man later on is very uncomfortable. And then I feel like the only other really, like, elaborate person of color story we get at all is, the other family that the white guy had, and taking, again, a woman of color and owning her. Like, it's all just like, God, and I know it's a time period, but again, we also have a black president, so it's like, you need to say that you're making a statement.
It's so hard to understand exactly what the movie is trying to say is okay.
I'm not sure if it's aware of what it's implying about the way people of color are treated in these, because that is how they're treated, especially in that time period, still now too, but it's like, it almost comes across as like, oops, didn't realize we were doing this, and I don't know for sure.
It doesn't feel intentional, and that's the
problem. And it would make some
problem.
sense too, because like they are coming at it from a UK perspective, when this is a possibly more of a US thing, when these particular ways this is being done. I don't know. I'm just like, I can't tell what is being done as a statement and what is being done as a clumsy oops. I can't tell, and that makes me
reads
really
as insensitive
uncomfortable.
either way.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, if you're doing a period piece, do it as a period piece.
Or make
You
a
know?
statement about it. Be like, no, guess what? Like, muggles treat people of color like and bad wizards treat people of color like but the good ones don't, and that's why there's a black president, but, you know, Lestrange was horrible to black people.
You know how I can tell you're really mad?
What?
When I have to start bleeping you on my channel.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to not use words.
That's my thing, alright?
It makes me uncomfortable.
No, it does. Like,
And I'm
you
like,
know.
I can't tell if they're making an intentional statement or if they're just being unaware of what they're doing. I don't know which.
No.
And I want to trust that they know because obviously, like, Joe is a big proponent of human rights and...
Yeah, but she's also, like, this is a thing that is a problem with her, that, like, a lot of people take issue with Joe Rowling on these specific points.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I wonder how much of this carries over into the work.
But then she's, like, completely fine with, like, Hermione being black, so it's like, I don't know.
But, like,
torn.
that also tends to feel the way that she handles queer people, because, like, she's like, oh, well, this person's queer. Sorry, didn't mention that. And it's like, can you give us something canonical?
I just know as, like, if I were a person of color watching the movie, I would be like, I don't enjoy my representation on screen,
No, exactly.
except for the president, who is kind of a bad president, too.
Yeah, and, like, you'd be watching it and being like, cool, they invited us. I kind of wish they hadn't, you know? Like,
but then it's also important to actually tell the truth of how people of color are treated.
right,
but
but not
it doesn't
in a way
seem
that
like they're
is
making a
unclear.
statement
No,
with it.
exactly. It's like, oh yeah, I'm aware of the problems. Are you? Because it doesn't seem like you are.
It's very... I want to get behind it, but I don't know if I trust the motivations yet enough to be like, no, this is being done for the right reasons. I don't know for sure if the motivations are right, or if they just accidentally had this happening with people of color. I don't know. I'm like, and if it's an accident, that is a problem. They need to be way more
And
aware
like
of what
the
they're
whole
doing.
point of these movies is that they are aware of the social problems that exist within the wizarding world, and like
because that's what the whole
theme.
that's what the point is.
Yeah. But it's like, can we get past the other ones then? Because I
Yeah.
feel like you can't be having this high and mighty moralistic, like, Star Trek level debate in this setting where you're also just, like, saying, like, this is just fact and not making it clear at all how you actually feel about it.
I'm also curious if Grindelwald always had the plan to attack Aurors that broke up a rally, if it's something he talked about as a teenager, or if Albus just knows the way Grindelwald thinks well enough to predict that, or if he has spies and Grindelwald's followers right now. Because he told Theseus, like, if he holds a rally, don't break it up. Like, if you've ever trusted me. So he knew it was going to happen, and I don't know how he knew. Is he just that in sync with him, or does he have a spy?
My interpretation is that that is what he would do in that situation, to, like, manipulate people into, like, joining.
And are they just that similar?
Yeah, I kind of wonder if he just can read him that well.
That's what I
That's
mean.
my theory.
I don't know if
You
it's
know?
reading him or if it's something he talked about in the past or if he is a current spy. I'm so curious. I really want to know though.
Any of those are possible.
Right?
Honestly.
That's why it kind of excites
And that's
me.
sort of like, we had that weird moment with one of Grindelwald's, like, inner circle people, where he was like, will you be there? And it was like, I wonder if that's the mole.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if that's Dumbledore's guy. You
Right.
know, that's sort of my theory.
I'm also curious if we're going to be getting a lot of dragons in the next few movies because Dumbledore does all his work with dragon's blood, and there's a very big, like, most people think that dragon's blood is how you break the blood pact, and that's one of the uses. And it would explain having to use Newt and it being a fantastic beast, and it would involve travel, and obviously dragons would be a great creature to focus on, so I'm wondering if we're going to be getting a lot of dragons.
I still haven't gotten over the way that dragons were dealt with in Goblet of Fire, the movies specifically, where I'm like, why do we need a 6-minute chase scene that did not happen? You know, like, there's plenty of drama in this book to have this sequence that doesn't feel like anything.
See, normally I would agree, but if there's
dragons,
a dragon
yeah,
on
exactly.
screen, I
Like,
kind of don't
this
care.
is literally the only reason that you were trying to get me to watch Game of Thrones. Like, this is the reason you are trying to stomach it yourself.
It's not the only reason.
It's
but
the reason.
A part. It's a big part.
Yeah, no, you just love
I
it.
really love
You love
dragons.
his writing. That's really the thing. You love the whole different
Oh, yeah, I
perspectives
know.
thing and everything. Like, that's very your
And
your
like
alley.
world building, God,
Yeah.
I've literally never known anyone to do that.
But also dragons. Like, let's
Dragons.
acknowledge that the dragon. Let's acknowledge
right.
the dragon in the room.
Let's acknowledge the fact I had a crush on Smaug when I was 4 from the Hobbit cartoon, and I still am not over that.
I understand.
I'm just saying. Just saying. might have a that's my sexuality is attracted to dragons, which I also feel like Ezra Miller would get.
It's a whole other level of queer.
I feel
We
like
need a new flag.
Right? I feel like Ezra Miller would understand that. I'd be like, I'm exclusively attracted to animated dragons voiced by British actors, and he'd be like, all right.
Oh, you too. All right.
I
Join the
accept
club.
this, right?
Why do you think I got in these movies?
I'm going to make Benedict Cumberbatch so uncomfortable. Like Doctor Strange and a dragon, you say. He plays asshole surgeons and dragons.
You just really love asshole characters, and he
I
plays
do.
them so
He
fantastically
plays
well.
them perfectly. I don't have a crush on him. I have a crush on like all of his characters, which makes me feel like a terrible person because he seems perfectly nice. So do I have a crush on him? No. But you know, make him an asshole. I'm all about it. The only other note I had was, and I don't know if I just missed something. I may have missed something because it was very late at night. I was very tired. But I don't know why they didn't disapparate sooner from the rally, because people were able to disapparate, at least like the followers when he told them to, but then the orders were also trying to disapparate after then. It's just the flames would kill them as they're disapparating. Like, so why didn't they just disapparate faster? I don't understand. Like, couldn't they disapparate like duck behind something, disapparate before he can get to you or something, like even during the rally?
Yeah,
I don't
think
understand.
I think that's basically just panic.
Maybe, I don't, but they're orders. They should be trained to deal with that.
I mean, it's also Wizard Hitler. Like,
I don't know. it felt...
I'm with you though.
It felt
like
convenient.
plot contrivance.
I felt like maybe there was something set up where, like the way, you know, they set up that you couldn't disapparate out of the ministry. They set that up. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I don't think they ever set that up for the cemetery, unless I'm completely missing something, which I may have. The first time
Well,
I
that's the other thing, like the apparition that they do.
Exhausted.
The apparition that they do to escape the cemetery is very, very different than what we see in the rest of the movie. And they use
so
apparition
curious.
a lot in these movies in particular.
Yeah, Newt's
to the-
apparating all the time.
Right? To the point where I'm like, this is actually really unsafe because, like...
Yeah, but Newt's like reckless. He's so
yeah,
reckless.
but like he also has to have a clear idea of his destination. That's like a whole thing with
I was
apparition.
thinking that.
And I'm like, he doesn't even actually know where he's going.
Half the time he's just picking like, 15 feet ahead.
That's like
behind
a
the column.
Right, that's like a Hufflepuff superpower though. Like
He can find his way.
Yes, exactly. Hufflepuffs are particularly good finders.
No, it makes me so happy. Everything about that.
No,
makes me
exactly.
happy.
Like
He had to go find the Obscurious.
right? They do like apparate a lot, and the apparition that they do to escape the graveyard is more like what the Death Eaters would do, where they'd sort of fly away,
Yeah.
than it was like the actual twisting it on themselves like
That's true.
thing that they do, and what Porky's do.
I'm just really curious. I felt like I must have missed a line or something there, or they cut a line. I feel like there had to be some explanation why the Aurors didn't apparate faster, because they did try to apparate towards
Either
the
that-
end. It just was pointless by that.
Exactly, or they thought that they needed to stay and have like try to stand and like didn't realize
I'm
that.
probably just too Slytherin.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
probably
get out,
too
get
Slytherin.
out, leave.
Exactly.
You know
Like,
that if you're
as a
dead.
Gryffindor, I'd be doing exactly what the others did and like sticking around and trying to fight.
See, I would probably leave once I realized it was a trap, because you can't do anything good if you're dead.
I'm very much a die trying type. Like that's really kind of my thing.
God, you Gryffindors are exhausting.
I know, we're exhausting. We exhaust ourselves.
I had my snake. Okay.
You're good.
We would run just so we could fight again another day.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point at which retreat is really your only option that makes any sense, but like, you gotta try. I gotta try. I don't know what's wrong with you. Like,
I feel like once it's a circle of blue flame, it's gonna kill you if you're not evil.
well, they also probably saw their fellow Aurors get burned alive.
No,
so
yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. I would have gone faster. I'm so confused by it.
I know.
I would've
You're just-
grabbed people.
You're just way too Slytherin.
I would have grabbed Queenie and bolted. You know,
Yeah.
I would have grabbed people and forced them to side-by-side apparition.
Yeah.
Because, like, someone could have taken on Queenie, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, she didn't want to leave. She would have fought.
That's what I mean, though. but
Then you
could've
really
taken
would have
her on.
flinched.
You could have
Like-
taken her on, I think.
Yeah,
I
no.
think you could have forced that.
I don't know. I kind of wonder, like, what is going on there because, like, it almost feels like that place might not actually be real. Like, it might be some sort of magical place, you
I
know?
don't know. Something was happening.
But either way, Grindelwald clearly had the place ready for everything.
I also get frustrated by people that say that what happens with Queenie is out of character, because it's really not. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, she was already doing immoral things to get what she wants with Jacob. Like, she's very
and
prone
she
to that.
really doesn't think that. And again, we're tying in with the greater good concept because, like, she really does think that she is doing what she needs to do in order to live the life that she wants to live,
And that
like,
he wants too. Like,
Yeah.
I know what's best.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like he wants it too. She's doing it for love for them.
Yeah.
You know, like that's all. That's we're back to the single issue voter thing again, where it's like, okay, all she wants is to be able to marry the person that she loves, regardless of whether or not they are, you know, a muggle. And she can't do that, and that's all she cares about. And she doesn't really care about what happens
And
to
she
the rest of
doesn't
it
get the implications of what he's saying when he's like, oh, well, they're just other. They're just not.
Yeah, she's not thinking further along. It's
Yeah.
that whole slippery slope thing.
Yeah. Because she's thinking, of course you're different, that's fine. She's not getting, like, the subtle things that he's saying underneath the surface, because she's very on the surface, other than reading people's minds. She's used to being able to
Which
read
is a very
people.
ironic characteristic of her, because, like, she's got this kind of access to other people's thoughts
Yeah.
that, like, should make her very much aware of, like, the depth and complexity of people. But in a weird way, she almost turns off to it.
Yeah, because I think she's used to being able to just directly read it from reading their mind. She doesn't have to work for it. She just has
Right,
to read
and
their
that's
thoughts.
sort of the thing. Like, we know that Grindelwald is an Occlumens, so he's, like, really good at keeping her out. And everybody else has an accent, and she can't read through accents, and that's, like, an established fact.
Yeah.
So, like, she really is just kind of working on a surface level in a way that she normally doesn't have to. It reminds me of the episode of Star Trek Next Generation where Troy loses her empathic
Yeah,
abilities.
and she doesn't know how to
know
read
what
people
she
anymore.
literally can't do her job as a therapist.
No, it's like it's losing a sense.
Yeah.
It's gonna mess with you. She's essentially going in blind, you know?
Yeah, that literally, yeah, she's basically going in blind.
Yeah, no.
Do we have any other notes?
I don't-
Because this video is an hour long already.
No, it's, and I mean, I have some, but they're unimportant.
Well, as always, I love having you on this channel when we talk Harry Potter because
I
I
talk
think,
too long.
well, it's a very easy video for me. I basically just sit back and be like, yes, I agree with you. Not that that's ever how that works out.
No.
But, like, you know, seriously, you are at least as into Harry Potter as I am, if not more. And I would argue way more likely more. And that honestly scared me when we first got together because we bonded. Like, the first conversations we ever had
We're about Harry Potter.
were about Harry Potter. And I was like, oh, wow, I could go as deep as I possibly can, and it's not going to scare this person off. Like,
No,
that was
I can't be
something.
scared off with Harry Potter.
right? No, exactly. So I was like, oh, this is something special. Well, I love you,
I love you too.
and I'm very happy that I get to talk about something I'm this passionate about with someone who's arguably more passionate about it than I am.
I'm happy you don't judge me for taking 28 paragraphs of notes about.
I judge you for doing it, like, handwritten, even on an electronic device, and then typing it up. That's what I judge
It's
you
how
for.
I get my thoughts out. I have to doodle thoughts and everything too.
Oh, crazy, because I'm like, I have to make this legible for future me? Never mind. It's not worth it. No.
Gryffindor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, speech is too slow for me half the time, so it's really frustrating trying to get notes down for me. Like, that's why I just got really good at remembering everything.
Yeah.
You know? Drove my classmates crazy. All right.
You're babbling now.
I'm babbling.
But I love you.
And that is all for this week. I will be back again next week with another video that I hope you'll find interesting. Until then, stay
Stay curious.
curious.